Okay, we are into the second part of chapter 12 in So Be It. I had told Georgia about my lucky streak, of course, since I was telling her everything, but there were no slot machines around for me to prove it to her. It's not that she didn't believe me, she said she did, but I still wanted to show her. Finally, in a bus station in Des Moines, I figured out a way to do it. Stand over here and don't say anything, I told her. Just watch. I looked around the station for a minute until I found what I was looking for, sitting on a bench near the restrooms. Then I headed over to the newsstand. 2 quick scratch lottery tickets, please, I said. Little young for gambling, ain't you, half pint? The man said. I can't sell you tickets, you know. Oh, these aren't for me, sir. My mother asked me to do it for her. She says I'm luckier than her. She's over there on the bench near the door. See? I pointed to a woman sitting on a far-off bench by the restrooms, busily digging around in her handbag. It's okay for you to sell me tickets, so long as I've got an adult with me, right? She's with me. She's just over there looking for her glasses. She always loses them, I said. I tell her she should get one of those chains to hang them around her neck, but she always forgets to do it. Mama! Yoo-hoo! Mama! I called over in her direction. The woman kept pawing through her bag and didn't look up when I called. Oh, she can't hear when she's not wearing her glasses, I explained, something Bernie had once pointed out that had been true of her father. Isn't that weird? Uh-huh, okay, he said, taking a last look at the woman on the bench before handing me 2 tickets. I paid him and then used my fingernail to scratch off the silver squares over the numbers on the tickets. I won $7 on the first one and 3 on the second. He looked a little surprised. Look, Mama, I called out as I waved the $10 bill he handed me in the air. We won! Georgia was very impressed. I treated us both to hamburgers, milkshakes, and fries with the $10 that I won. I knew that Bernie considered that junk food, but I had a feeling she would forgive me. For the first time since I'd left Reno, I actually felt full. Do you think I'll make a good shrink? Georgia asked me as we pulled out of Des Moines and got back onto the highway. Frank says he thinks I'm too high-strung for it. I pictured a clothesline hanging way up high with long johns and nightgowns, and Georgia hung up by the shoulders with clothespins, her long skinny legs swinging back and forth in the breeze. Who's Frank? I asked. Oh, Frank Gregory. He's just a boy I like, she said. I had one of my jealous pangs. Well, Frank is wrong. You'll be a perfect shrink, I told her. We talked a while longer, and then Georgia dozed off. I took out my notebook and turned to a blank page to start a new list I'd been thinking about making. Things I know about Georgia Sweet. Birthday, August 12th. Middle name, Elizabeth, named after her grandmother. Father's name, John Albert Sweet, high school math teacher, and he likes fishing. Mother's name, Louise Ann Sweet, born in Atlanta, majored in home ec, died of cancer when Georgia was 5. Dog's name, Frisky, sleeps on the bed, likes M&Ms and cheese. Other pets, none, but would like to have a monkey someday or a talking parrot. Likes, fresh breath, strawberry milkshakes, ketchup on french fries, the color yellow, psychology, body language, double mint gum, violets, Frisky, old movies, fishing with her dad, asking questions. Dislikes, sleeping sitting up, flying on airplanes, mayonnaise. Wants to be a shrink, wants to know everything, secret, likes a boy named Frank Gregory. I left a lot of extra space after likes and dislikes because I knew the more Georgia and I talked, the more there would be to add to the list. I wish she would wake up so that I could find out what her favorite book was and whether she liked devil dogs as much as I did. She stirred and I turned to look at her. The notebook fell off my lap, and when I leaned down to pick it up off the floor, it had flopped open to a page near the front of the book, to an old list with only one entry under the heading. Things I know about Mama. Name. So be it. How was it that I knew so much more about Georgia, a person I had only known for a day, than I did about my own mother? Bernie had told me to find someone who could be my mother, someone who was safe. Sitting there beside Georgia, seeing her long arms crossed over her chest as she slept, I knew I had found the right person. Was she like a mother? And when I really thought about it, was Mama? On the fourth day of my trip, we reached New York City. I was excited. I knew I was almost there, almost to liberty. But I was scared. I had not spoken to Bernie since Wyoming, and now I would be losing Georgia, too. I wished she was coming with me. "I hope you find Soof," Georgia told me as we got off the bus, "and your Grammy and everything." Georgia didn't have to catch another bus, so she walked with me through the giant station, up the escalators and over to the short line gates, where I would catch my bus to Liberty. The Port Authority bus station was very crowded compared to everywhere else we had stopped. There were stores and sit-down restaurants, even a bowling alley. I had tried Bernie from a phone booth, but with no luck. George stopped to buy a package of violets at the newsstand, and while she stood in line to pay, I wandered over to watch a Japanese man who was sitting on a stool playing beautiful, sad music on an instrument with one long string. As I stood there listening, I felt a sharp tug on my knapsack, but when I turned around, nobody was there. At the gate, Georgia helped me choose my next mother, a friendly woman named Dee Dee Monroe. I got her chatting about the weather without much effort, and as we got on together, I turned and waved a last goodbye to Georgia. "Who's that?" Dee Dee asked me. "My sister," I told her, and this time I knew I was lying because the truth was too hard to admit. A sister is someone you will always know, no matter what happens. "Oh, sure enough," she said, "I can see the resemblance." It was a gray day, and it was dark on the bus. I turned on the little light over my seat, which sent a focused beam of buttery glow down into my lap. I opened the front pocket of my backpack, took out the packet of photos from Hilltop, and went through them one by one. All the faces were familiar by now, strangers, and at the same time not. When I came to the picture I'd torn in half, which Bernie and I had later taped back together, I stopped. I set it on top of the stack and stared at it for a while. Then I closed my eyes, tried to picture the smiling blonde woman in the red sweater. "Hello, Grammy," I said out loud, and I imagined her voice answering me, clear and bright and strong. "Hello, Heidi. What on earth took you so long?" Now that's the end of chapter 12. But before we end for today and this week, Heidi is always making these lists of things that she knows about people. So let's think just a little bit about what do we know about Heidi. I mean, we know she just has her mother, we know so far, and she's taken care of by Bernie, but what other things do we know about Bernie? So just take a few seconds to think about it. What kind of person is she? Well, we know she's brave because she's taking this trip all by herself. We know she's determined because even though Bernie didn't want her to, she decided to do this. She's organized. She figured out how to get enough money. She figured out how to get the ticket when she wasn't legally able to buy it herself. And she got food. And she's figured out how to get all the way across to New York City. She's also learning more about herself too, about how it doesn't feel good when you're lying, and that it's better, or at least you feel better when you're telling the truth about things that really matter to you. She's also a person who seems to be willing to learn about lots of other people. She is curious about the rest of the world. So we'll see what happens in chapter 13 when maybe she actually gets to liberty. Bye for now.